Rays of gilded wherever sunrise pour in, refracting through locked casement panes, their curtains tied neatly aside, and lay in blankets over my slumbering face. A yawn, paired with a stretch, and I wake up, for the third week in a row, feeling like I've just had a team of masseuses pull out all of the acrobatic stops on my head, my back, my pelvis, and every discernible inch of my flesh. Only, replace the masseuses with pneumatic jackhammers and their soothing, fragrant oils with shark's teeth, scraping and scraping and scraping deep into marrow. And that's all before ambling out of bed. Ambling, of course, being a gentler adjective than falling. So I'm not competing in any triathlons today. Aiming for 100% transparency here, I'm a little confused as to what brought this on. I take my vitamins, I eat like a hamster, and I never consort with magicians. I know their game. On elbows and knees, I crawl, basic training style, to the bathroom and haul myself up, all pins and poison-tipped needles, to the sink. Slowly, as I tip my head back to view the toothpaste-flecked mirror, an unfamiliar face challenges my stare. No, not unfamiliar. He's got hair far grayer and thinner than I recall mine being, and fine, deeply set wrinkles no one my age should be sporting, unless they grew up in Studio 54. But there's no mistaking the slope of the jaw, the cinder in the eyes. He's me. And come to think of it, I don't feel exactly ill. The groaning in my bones isn't from a common cold, and the only pain in my stomach is a desperate craving for pureed food. Nope, I'm just old. When, at last, I can tear my eyes away from the geezer taking refuge in my medicine cabinet, I run down a list of all the possible reasons I could have awoken this morning, ready to purchase a one-way plane ticket to scenic Florida. Just how many Stuff-A-Plenty brand sleep aids did I take last night? The building looks no more in disrepair than it always has, so I mentally cross off Van Winkleism. Oh no! This isn't one of those movies where the guy's been old the whole time and is just fondly remembering his prime, is it? Those always make me bawl like a baby. Theories exhausted and quickly growing bored of trying to pull off this elaborately constructed old man mask to no avail, I decide on a jog. Maybe it's all in my head, and fresh air will clear my mind. It is not, and it does not, and I make it as far as the first floor before I'm doubled over in a fierce battle with my lungs and my hips. Domino, the failing musician from upstairs, gives very helpful advice as we bump into each other in the hall. He on his way to the basement/petting zoo, formerly a basement/seedy experimentation parlor, and me still catching my breath. Dude, you look like death. He adjusts what looks like a fashion-forward dog collar. And I would know. I've watched a lot of good bands die. Per his ingenious insight, I pay a visit to the local quack. Now, I'm not mocking the guy. There's a giant inflatable rubber ducky above the squat brown building out of which he practices. It's kinda cute, to be honest. It's got a little stethoscope, and it honks once at opening and once at closing every day. It's something of a local landmark. The doc takes quack as a term of endearment, which is why he won't be too terribly upset when I call him a quack anew after his diagnosis of acute iron deficiency and his prescription to pump more iron. When I ask to see his medical license, he's considerably more offended than you'd expect someone with a novelty duck representing their establishment is capable of being. On that note, I leave, with more questions than answers. Namely, where's a guy get a huge rubber duck? I'm asking for my Cyclops friend who lives in the mountains and bathes in the deltas of their rivers. After the quack is a bust, I call the one cab in town, a deceptively roomy pink beetle, and ride the 3 blocks home in considerable agony. Everyone I pass on the arduous route to the 2nd floor takes double glances as they try piecing together where they've seen me before, and if I'm maybe lost or looking for a misplaced grandchild. Once the door to my room is closed and securely locked behind me, I gracefully collapse onto the pile carpeting for a late afternoon nap. Coming to 15 minutes or 3 hours or a day later, I survey the flat world around me. Tangled fibers obscure the lower third of my vision, and the tables of legs and chairs wobble about sickeningly, kicking like burlesque dancers. I rub my eyes with sun-spotted hands, and once my vision unblurs, can just make out shapes beneath my bed. Odd, because I usually keep that area spotless. You know, so the clowns can't get you. They must have fallen from the windowsill during that maybe not so small tremor in the basement. I do like to keep my things resting precariously on counter edges. It's like my little taunt to gravity. Go on, big guy. I dare ya. I reach out a quivering arm, grabbing hold of what feels like a rubber stress ball, nowhere near rubbery or bally enough to de-stress crotchety old man Ethan. And to its left, a laminated promotional card announcing to town the arrival of a famed sculptor. But as soon as my hand touches the old cow's hide-bound spine, the memory comes flooding back. The memory of the day 2 months ago when I first visited the public library. It's not as dramatic as all that. I'm reminded of the rows upon rows of impeccably preserved hand-bound books, filed meticulously along what seemed like miles of bookshelves polished to a luster. The grandmotherly crones who took my selection and lovingly stamped it before returning it, along with a smiling piece of advice.
Return the book by its proper date, or face your very sudden fate.
Okay, maybe it is as dramatic as all that. Something about the initial experience turned me off from running back in a hurry. Maybe it was the overbearing stench of birdseed, or maybe that checking out a book meant signing one's name in fresh blood. Who can say? If it could provide some explanation for my rapidly receding hairline, however, I'd stomach a little birdseed. Another cab ride, this time southeast, toward the most beautiful work of construction to which wherever can lay claim. In a town with a literacy rate rivaling its own economy for record lows, the library constituting her architectural pride and joy provides peak irony. The Be Wherever Memorial Library is massive. Built like a Gothic church, and, though yellowed by long days of staring contests with the sun, was probably a sheer white at its inception. There's something magnificent, yet terrifying, about the glittering mosaic stained glass windows mounted on steeples all about its roof. I was in awe the first time I'd seen it, shortly after moving here, and I was in awe still. Awe, alas, must be postponed. The purples of sunset are gathering like oil in water at the depths of the horizon. Night will soon fall, and I have no time to waste. The book stored in a coat pocket, I move as swiftly as my old bones can bear up the sandy hill on which rests Be Wherever Memorial. I make a beeline for the return books kiosk, nothing more than a metal box on a post, and find the flap sealed shut. Twisted, hammer-battered nails jutting out in every which direction. Yeah, that'd be way too easy. Instead, I turn my attention, and also the rest of me, toward the building's entrance. Double doors stand ahead, splinters of chestnut peeking through spots in the whitewash. They're pulled apart by their ornate handles easily enough, and I step inside. Surveying the bits of the foyer still illuminated by lingering daylight, the wooden door slammed shut behind me. "Rude," I tell them. A pair of parallel ivory staircases, curved inward toward the center of the lower hall, cascade in grandiosity from the library entryway. I begin down the left set, tempted by every childish impulse to slide to the ground floor, straddling the copper handrail. Quashed immediately by a once-over of my frail state, and I settle on merely grasping it and walking. Good thing, too, because my knees have minds of their own. Popping and then locking, a lucrative career as hip-hop dancers in their future if being my cartilage goes under. Speaking of going under, my legs do exactly that, folding like origami cranes and sending me crashing, head first, to the linoleum tiling below. Red and twilight smear my vision. Now, I'm standing, bare, except for a tastefully placed mulberry leaf, in the middle of an enormous pasture. Grass bristles beneath my toes. Lilac-scented breezes play a tune for only nature's ears. When I hear a woman's voice coming from behind, I try searching for her, to find that I can't turn my head. Her voice is slight, 1,000 gently beating butterfly wings. She's saying something. The same phrase she's been repeating since the voice first caught my attention.
Ethan, wake up.
Mom? And I begin to blink awake, groggily, though the faces, leering fixedly from a distance, have all the alertness of birds.
I'll be your mommy if you want, dearie.
One of the shadowy figures coos, hacking a ghastly laugh. No thanks, one was enough.
Ooh.
She purrs.
Sore spot?
I just tumbled down a staircase, I say. All of my spots are sore. The women turn back in toward each other, striking up a conversation, their hushed chatters carrying across the main library hall. I've been positioned at the middle of a long mahogany study table, book-ended with blue glass desk lamps. They, whoever they are, have left me unbound, though with the tumble I took, I'm not making any heroic escapes. Behind me, a wall of bookcases, and ahead, a receptionist's desk, clear of anything but a container of ballpoint pens and a golden bell. I am definitely in need of service. Beyond the receptionist's desk, the small, unlit office in which the women stand, mumbling secretively. In the dark, they are one writhing, occasionally giggling blob. Above, dark brown support beams crisscross the incredibly high arch of the library's ceiling. It is just as glorious viewed from inside. Dotted with the fiery auras of chandeliers, it grants the hall an elegance absent from the greasy hovels elsewhere and wherever. No offense to Bertie and Betty's Grease Hovel, a fine eating establishment, if you remember to bring your bib and a liability waiver. From the dimness of the recess in which they stand, huddled and whispering covertly, they seem like your run-of-the-mill spinsters, having an engaging back and forth about the latest Burbia Tinwell novel. One of those trashy pulp centaur romances that you'd never catch me reading, no way, even if the lead is a flawed misanthrope with a heart of gold. When they disengage, however, and creep closer into the dull ring of lamplight, still moving as one, there is a prismatic sheen of downy feathers glimmering across the leftmost woman's shoulder, and a burgundy opera glove fallen half down her forearm that she hurriedly snatches and smooths upon noticing the trail of my eyes.
Darn thing won't stay up. This new diet I'm on.
Oh, cayenne pepper?
Boy.
Sounds like more trans fats, but okay.
So, what brings a strapping young lad like yourself here?
Chimes a different woman, this one with a cropped haircut, foregoing garish gloves for a plush, long-sleeved sweater. See, now, your sarcasm leads me to believe you know exactly why I'm here, I say, shifting my weight uncomfortably from buttock to buttock. The first woman again interposes.
My sisters and I were just deliberating, shall I say, on what to do about our little visitor. Though, it looks like we've done quite enough already.
She can hardly get out between chokes of laughter. What? The stairs? The crone in the sweater admits.
Coated them in flaxseed oil. Had a hunch you might be stopping by. They always do,
she says, a pride in the recounting. Ah, the old flaxseed oil on the stairs trick. Classic. Sort of a waste. Look, if it's the book you want, I brought it. Didn't even read the whole thing. Who writes 700 pages about medieval board games? And a hand scours an inner jacket pocket, returning empty. The sister with the opera gloves, raven-haired and a constant smirk glued to her beaky face, produces the hide-bound book with a flourish.
Looking for this?
Yes, in fact.
You dropped it when you Humpty Dumptied.
Well, you've got it back now. Think you can clue me in on why I'm suddenly overcome with the urge to spend the day playing chess in the park and telling anyone who'll listen about the olden days and how they were categorically better despite my only very foggy memory of them? The graying bob on the sister who heeds my query gives an air of maturity.
Of course, though it's terribly simple. Borrowing a book from the Sisters Three is a pact. And as every witch knows, the best pacts are sealed with blood. For every day you idle past the due date, you break your sacred vow. Now, isn't it only fair that we get something in compensation?
The younger asks, coyly. Most libraries charge a late fee, I say.
We are not most libraries.
She had a point there. Don't I at least get the privilege of learning the names of my beautiful captors?
Very well.
The woman in the wrist-length sleeve speaks up.
I am Magda, eldest member of the Circle, hatched beneath a budding lunar eclipse, and a blood sorceress of unmatched magnitude.
Her dark-haired sister next says,
I am Soria, second eldest, the scorn of every king and peasant's wife, and enchantress unrivaled.
I'm Tonk. The voice comes before I see the person, utterly silent preceding her introduction, but when I do, it's a wonder I ever missed her. Tonk, if her sisters are thrushes or birds of paradise, is a statuesque condor. The moment her lips purse shut, she vanishes again, becoming one with the background, though she stands a full head and a half taller than Magda. Is that her power? I implore.
Is what?
Soria replies. Never mind.
The time for pleasantries is over, and the hour's drawing late. It is time for you to face your now very sudden fate,
cries Magda, her voice a melodic swell. I brace myself against the broad back of my chair for whatever unthinkable punishment the sister witches have in store for me, and clench my eyes for good measure, in anticipation of... Nothing. So, when's my fate going to arrive? He seems a bit tardy.
You're facing it right now. You're a weathered old fossil,
Soria says. Huh. That's it?
Wait, what? What do you mean, that's it? You're not going to beg us to turn you back? Sink to your knees and prostrate in our honor?
Says the eldest witch, one eyebrow nearly disappearing into her silver hair. No, I don't think so.
You don't wish to be returned to your former youthful self?
Ponders Soria. I did at first, but I'm getting kinda used to being an old dude. Hey, did you know I qualify for a retirement pension? I didn't even know CDs Please had benefits. Go figure.
This is...
Magda begins, huffing.
No fun.
The younger sister cuts in, an irritated whine to her voice. I can try to sound a bit more doomed if that helps. And I go into overdramatic wails, pleading for my life and asking them to please think of the children I don't have.
No, it's not the same. We can tell you're faking it.
Sorry, I offer. I feel I've broken some unspoken protocol of trust between the cursor and the cursee, and I can tell the sisters have never been in a situation this peculiar before. All of their deliberation hadn't prepared them for me. As resolute as steel, Magda stomps over to Soria and snatches the book from her gloved talons, who yelps, "Hey!" Turning, heedless to her sister's protests, she walks to the receptionist desk and fishes out the singular ruby red pen amongst the sea of blue. When she clicks the pen's end, and this could have just been my cataracts, but the tip seems to shoot sparks like 4th of July fireworks as it ejects from its holster. With one hand, she flips to the book's inner cover and the manila strip of paper glued inside that, on thin, closely spaced black lines, contain name after name of former library patrons. And at the very bottom, squiggled as if the signer had been writing with a faulty fountain pen, truly a sliced fingertip, was my name. With the other hand, and a movement so sleek and practiced I nearly missed it, she strikes a crimson line through the list's final entry. Nothing. Then, the added mark begins to sizzle, and spread, and burn through the manila paper, leaving a charred dent where there was once my name. As soon as the impossibly small pyre reaches the edges of the E and the N, overtaking them in oranges and blacks, there is a burning sensation in me as well. A burning from the space between my lungs that fills my chest cavity and torches me from the inside out, too hot to scream. When it's over, though, and the heat sink spirals in reverse back into the pit of my sternum, I'm different. Rather, I'm no longer different. Slamming the book closed and tossing it onto a rickety returned items cart, Magda says,
As every good witch knows, suffering makes the magic more potent. A compliant soul is a quick bite, hardly worth the effort. Empty calories, insubstantial.
I'm hurt, I think, I say, genuinely conflicted. Insubstantial though I may be, I was back in taut, unwrinkled skin. I looked as though I'd been steam-pressed the night before a big presentation. Good-looking skin, my imaginary colleagues would say, and I'd shake my head modestly. No, it's just a new starch I'm using. But if my face doesn't reveal my suspicion at the witch's kindness, my voice certainly does. You're really letting me go? Just like that? No strings attached? The witches look to each other, smirks cocked, And Soria pipes up.
You sound like you've dealt with witches before, dearie.
No, I say. Just genies. But there's always a catch. I begin rolling my shoulders, testing my legs with slow pumps beneath the table, and they feel sore like I just worked out before stretching, though thankfully not like I just fell down a flight of stairs in the body of a senior citizen. Magda and Soria circle me, and their avian features grow only more apparent. Magda says, gingerly,
Oh, it's no catch. An opportunity, really. A gift. You see, our majestic youngest sister, Tonk.
Grumbles Tonk, existing for a moment.
Tonk
She continues,
has had some difficulty, and I know this may be hard to believe with her bubbly demeanor. Some difficulty in the world of intimacy.
Oh no, I say, preemptively.
We want you to court her.
Says Soria, bluntly. You want me to tie the knot with your sister? No offense, I'm sure she's a lovely bird woman, but we've only just met, and those benefits at CD's Please are looking a lot less realistic by the second.
Oh, nothing so permanent. Even as an elderly man, you'd be far too young for Tonk. No, just one night out on the town to convince her that dating really hasn't changed very much in 300 years.
Tonk grumbles again, this time with a disagreeable tone.
Hush up. You'll never know unless you try.
Soria scolds.
Well, what say you, human?
The sisters three, witches of a most powerful order, all sharp noses and impenetrable secrecy, stare at me as expectant children in a candy store. I gulp. Do I have a choice? And that's the story of how I went on my first date and wherever. It was not exactly how I expected the event to unfold. I was not the one doing the asking. For that matter, no real asking was done at all. But it turned out surprisingly well. We started the night at Bertie and Betty's Grease Hovel and enjoyed a tasty, artery-clogging meal, after figuring out the logistics of fitting Tonk through the doorway. Hint, the answer is in the restaurant's name. We ended out the night at a showing of Dinosaurs on the Sun, an indie film playing at the drive-in. Tonk, if nothing else, was a fabulous moviegoer. I, at various points, forgot she was still sitting next to me on top of the town's one pink taxi. That is, until the ending, which I won't spoil, but which was a total gut-wrencher. Tonk, for the first time all night, said through sniffles,
I relate to them so much.
Well, it just goes to show, you can never judge a harpy witch by her feathers. Wait, no, that's not right. Turn your library books in on time and you won't have your life force drained. That's the one. Anywho, what am I telling you for? I bet you visit a library in a town just like this one. It's all the same. Here, there, wherever. This episode brought to you by Skin Starch. If you want the smoothest skin, if you wish that you could go back again, if you wish the world would never end, then come and use our Skin Starch.